Queen Silvara of the Aurelian Empire had reduced 3 nannies to tears in 1 week. The palace staff whispered that her daughter, little Princess Kaisha, was cursed, a child born with a defect that made her scales dull instead of luminescent, her wings too small to ever achieve flight. The queen loved her daughter fiercely, but grief made her impossible. Every nanny who flinched at Kaisha's appearance was dismissed. Every caretaker who spoke in pitying tones was banished. 15 professionals in 2 months, each one failing to see what Silvara desperately needed them to see, that her daughter was perfect, just different. James Chun mopped the palace corridor outside the royal nursery at 0300 hours, when the queen's sobs echoed through the crystal walls. He'd taken the janitorial position on Aurelia Prime to support his own daughter back on Earth, little Sophie, who'd been born deaf and who he'd raised alone after his wife left. He understood what people looked like when they saw only defects instead of children. When the nursery door burst open and the 16th nanny fled in tears, James didn't think. He simply walked inside. Queen Silvara stood rigid, her scales blazing with barely controlled fury, her 4 arms trembling. In the corner, Princess Kaisha huddled in her sleeping alcove, her dull gray scales making her nearly invisible in the shadows. She was crying, a sound like wind chimes breaking. "Get out," the queen hissed. "Unless you're here to tell me you can care for a broken princess." James set down his mop. "Your Majesty, I'm here to tell you that your daughter isn't broken. She's just scared because everyone keeps acting like she is." The queen's scales flickered with surprise. No one spoke to her this way. James crossed to the alcove and crouched down. He didn't reach for Kaisha, didn't invade her space. He simply signed, human sign language that meant nothing here, but the motion was universal. "I see you. You're safe." The princess is crystalline, eyes fixed on his hands. "My daughter is deaf," James said quietly. "When she was born, my wife said she was defective. Said we should fix her or give her up. But Sophie isn't defective. She experiences the world differently. She taught me that different isn't less." He pulled out his portable tablet and showed Kaisha a video. Sophie, laughing silently as she finger-painted, her joy transcending any need for sound. The princess crept forward, her small hand, 3-fingered and delicate, reaching toward the screen. "You're looking for someone who doesn't pity her," James said to the queen. "Someone who sees her first, and her differences second. Your Majesty, I'm not a nanny. I'm a janitor who works 3 jobs to send money home. But I know what it's like to love a child the world says is wrong. Sidvaras fury krumblet. Can you help her?" "I can try." The palace staff expected chaos when Queen Silvara appointed a human janitor as royal caretaker. Instead, they witnessed transformation. James didn't try to make Kaisha fly or force her scales to glow. He taught her to read star charts because her eyes, adapted to darkness, saw celestial patterns others missed. He showed her that her small wings, while flightless, were sensitive enough to detect atmospheric pressure changes, a gift among her people. He introduced her to human children via holocalls, kids with wheelchairs and prosthetics and cochlear implants, all thriving. Sophie and Kaisha became friends across light years, 2 girls teaching each other that normal was a cage, not a goal. 3 months later, when the Galactic Council convened, they met a princess who carried herself with quiet confidence, whose dull scales were painted with patterns that told stories, whose small wings wore ceremonial bells that sang when she moved. And beside her stood a human janitor, promoted to royal advisor of inclusive development, who'd never stopped mopping floors but now also shaped policy. Queen Silvara addressed the council with her daughter at her side. "Humanity taught us something we'd forgotten, that evolution doesn't make mistakes. It makes variations. And sometimes those variations see truths the rest of us are blind to." James caught Kaisha's eye and signed the message Sophie had taught him. "You are enough, exactly as you are." The princess signed back in the hybrid language they'd created together. "We all are." In trying to fix what wasn't broken, the Aurelians had missed the point. Leave it to humans, a species still learning to accept their own diversity, to remind an ancient empire that perfection was never the goal. Understanding was.